Hello, it's Jeremy, the existential wine guy. You may remember me from such hit films as Sulfites, The Phantom Menace, Tannins, Friend or Foe, and that one Cinemax After Dark special, Dionysus in the Land of the Cougar Juice. But today I'd like to talk to you about quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is the theory where particles are generated or share a spatial proximity in such a way that it comes to a point where they can no longer be described independently of each other. Even when they're separate, even when these particles are separated between time and space, what affects something way over here at this faster than the speed of light will also affect those same particles that have been entangled over here. The idea of it is that what happens to you 3,000 miles away happens to us. And it happens in ways that we can't even fathom and sometimes maybe immediately recognize. But it does happen, and it happens at the speed of light and sometimes faster. But right now, I'd also like to talk to you about the wines we sent over to you. The first wine, knowing that you guys like Zinfandels, is one of my favorite Zinfandels, and not just because I work for these guys. The Zinfandel that I have for you, well, let's go back a little bit. Unfortunately, when I first started in wine, I didn't start down in Napa. I started up in the Sierra foothills. And in the Sierra foothills, the first two wineries I worked at were both Zinfandel houses. And on any given day, I was pouring from 10 to 12 different Zinfandels, like people could tell the difference. And the reason I say that is not to be crass, but the style and the palate for that particular region of Zinfandel was big, overripe, jammy fruit on the front end, and then almost an obnoxious use of oak on the back end. The result would be these big jammy wines that were big and heavy and filled with vanillins on the back end. Not that these are bad wines, but I found that in my personal wine journey, over time, I was constantly not looking for notes, I was looking for balance. And those wines to me became unbalanced and very quickly. It wasn't until I got to where I am right now that I came across this Zinfandel. This is a 2020 Zinfandel coming out of Howell Mountain. Up in that area, the minerality of that mountain does something really interesting to this wine. What it does is it pulls the jamminess, all that extra fruit, down just a little bit. Our winemaker is a woman by the name of Laura Barrett, and she uses just the right amount of oak, not to make it oaky and heavy with vanillins, but rather just to give it a bit of structure and form. This is an elegant, elevated Zinfandel. I know a lot of people, when they try to pair Zinfandel, they pair it with like barbecue, because you have the jamminess of Zinfandel, and then you have the sweetness that comes from a lot of barbecue sauces. Something interesting happened over the last couple of years now, and you probably know these people. The men did one of two things. They either put a pizza oven in their backyard, or they brought out the smoker, because all of a sudden they were at home a lot more and they had time to, really watch and smoke the meats. And anybody who's been doing that for a while will tell you that when you have properly aged meat that's properly salted, spiced, and then hit with indirect heat for 8 to 18 hours, you end up with a meat that's elevated from the state that it was before. That's what you were going to have this wine with. This is to be paired with something a little bit more elegant. If a cab was a Zinfandel, there would be something close to this. The other wine that I have for you is a 2018 Cold Springs Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. This is a really phenomenal wine. Why is it? Because it takes every bit of the mountain. 2018, when you look it up, you're going to find is a phenomenal year for Napa wines. It was the first year after that, this 2017 fire. We had absolutely phenomenal weather. We had great yields, and the grapes that came off of this particular mountain were nothing short of superb. This is a wine that you can lay down for the next 5, 10 years even, but my sweet spot for Cabernet seems to be right around the 7 to 8 year mark. I like just a little bit of tannins, but I also need the fruit to spread out a little bit and have those tertiary notes to come on in. When you do open this wine up, the first thing you're going to notice is that it is not a big fruit forward wine. Because the soil and this particular vineyard is south facing, it gets a lot of the cool air that comes in off of Carneros and Coombsville. This actual vineyard doesn't get a lot of sunshine right away. In fact, takes a long time for the sugars to mature in the grapes. This is one of the last Cabernets we pull off the vine of any of our vineyards as a result. Also, the soil is volcanic ash. Volcanic ash holds no water. When it rains, it just flushes right out to the valley. What does that mean? It means that not only are the grapes trying to struggle and really reach into the mountain, find the water table, extract all the water through it and the minerality and all the other attributes of the soil, it also means that those grapes are on the vine for a longer amount of time. So when you pour this wine into your glass and you give it the snobby swirl, the first thing you're going to notice is that there isn't going to be a lot of fruit. In fact, you're going to get a better sense of the mountain, not an earthy sense right away, but you're going to put your nose in and there's going to be that tone of minerality. When you put it on your palate, you're going to feel the weight of that minerality. And there's going to be this luxurious mouthfeel to this wine as well, not to mention this nice long finish that goes along with it. Absolutely a food wine. I want you to think of all your big hearty proteins, whether it be steak, short ribs, lamb. This is that wine that's going to go expertly with all of those things. Now, I just want to let you know that Jan and I miss you guys terribly. And for me, one of the things I love about wine is that it is a metaphor for all the things that I believe in. And very specifically, no one person makes wine. There are people in the vineyards growing the grapes. There are people processing the grapes once they actually get into the cellar. It has to be, processed, fermented, thrown into oak. Eventually someone's going to design the label, it's going to go into a bottle, and eventually it's going to end up on our table. All that to say is that it takes a community to make wine. And Jana and I are so glad and so blessed that you are part of our community. We love you so much. Happy Merry Christmas.
Cheers. Love you guys.